What's good, everyone? Aggie Coach here. All right, man. So welcome to video number 3 in the How to Play FAT8 football series. And now we are finally going to start getting into the gameplay. It's 2 sections of the rule book that the information that I'm going to be giving you guys right now is going to be coming from. Okay, so this over the next 3 videos is pretty much all we're going to be looking at. That is field vision interaction. Okay, field vision interaction, which is in the rule book, and the glossary. So the glossary goes over definitions for football terminology that some people might not be familiar with, and general electric football terminology that relates to how to make adjustments to your figures in game. Okay, so this is where we are. So I want to go ahead and first and foremost get you started with the general setup, right? Before we even get into field vision interaction, which is next, I want to get into the general setup. So first we got to understand the line of scrimmage, right? So the line of scrimmage is designated by where the football is sitting. So right now I'm gonna just put it right here to give you guys a visual. So the ball is spotted at the 20-yard line. This is the line of scrimmage right here. Okay, now very important that we understand this in our setup. Offensively, you have to have 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. Okay, that is your center, your 2 guards, your 2 tackles, and in most cases 2 receivers and or tight ends. Now, as we're going through this, we need to understand how this setup works. As a general rule of football, you have to have an eligible receiver on both sides of the ball. So right now I have a legal formation set up. It's a twins, it's an I formation, twins to the right formation, where there are 7 guys on the line. There is an eligible receiver on both sides of the line, in that there is a wide receiver with an eligible number and a wide receiver with an eligible number on both sides of the line. Okay, now this would be an illegal formation, so you can understand this. If I move this wide receiver over here and try to set up trips, for example, I no longer have an eligible receiver on this side of the line. Therefore, this is an illegal procedure. Okay, this is an illegal formation. I'm sorry, not illegal procedure. This is an illegal formation, right? So you have to have an eligible receiver on both sides of the line. One way to get away with this is to designate one of your guys in your roster that is a tight end. You can do something like this. You put your tight end here on the line. That tight end is now an eligible receiver on this side of the field. You have an eligible receiver on the other side of the field. Therefore, you have a legal formation. Okay, so just make sure that you guys understand that you need to have an eligible receiver on both sides of the field. Okay, now let's get into it. I'm gonna put my guy back, split him back out, okay, for what we're getting ready to do. All right, now your offensive line has to be set up with at least 1 base length between each offensive lineman. For example, this figure here, my running back, he should be able to fit, as you can see, between these guys. There needs to be a base length between your offensive linemen. This is the correct way that your offensive line is set up. Okay, so you need to have a base length between each of your offensive linemen. There's a reason for this. In football, on offense, the right side of the line, you have holes on the right side and you have holes on the left side. Okay, on the right side of the offensive line, you have 2, 4, 6, 8. On the left side of the line, you have 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, so it's very important that those holes are there and that they're visual, that you can see them. because this is the way that football was intended to be played. All right, now, on the defensive side of the board, defensive players cannot have any part of their person, right? Hear me out, guys. No part of the model can be in the neutral zone, not the helmet, not the hand, okay? So no defensive player's hand or helmet can violate the neutral zone. That means that if this defensive tackle were up here on the line, this is going to be a neutral zone infraction because he is now offsides. Okay, so very important that you pick that up. Also, by NCAA rules, and this is not just NCAA, but this is also NFL as well, only the center is allowed to have to be in direct contact with the ball in what will be considered the neutral zone, right, or the line of scrimmage right here. Only the center. So typically the guard and the two tackles are slightly a half yard to about a yard off the tail of the center, right? That is the correct way to set up your offensive line. Okay, so defensively, UCLA in their grayed out uniforms, UCLA right now is in the 43 defense, right? They're in the 43 defense. So all of you young guys, if you don't understand what I mean by 43 defense, right now they're set up in what's called a 4-3-4. That means that they have 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and 4 guys in the secondary. Okay. So for now I'm gonna refer to this as a 4-3-4 for you young guys, just so you can help see the numbers in your head. But typically it's referred to as a 43 defense. Okay. So in this case they have 2 safeties, a strong safety and a free safety, 2 cornerbacks, 2 outside linebackers, a linebacker, 2 defensive tackles, and 2 defensive ends. Okay. Now that we got setup understood, there are a bunch of different schemes we'll go through in advanced play. We won't worry about it right now. But now that we got that set up, now we can kind of go ahead and start talking about the next stage of the game, and that is field vision interaction. In the FAT8 system, field vision interaction literally refers to what the athletes see in their arc of vision, in their field vision, what they are actually seeing. Every player in the FAT8, every player has a line of sight. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let's start talking about line of sight. By definition, a player's line of sight, let's look at the free safety over here, for example. Here, okay? His line of sight starts from the front of his base, okay? From the front of his base to the 2 front corners and along the sides. Anything behind him, he cannot see and he cannot react to. Okay? So if it gets past him and he can't see it, he can't react to it, right? So it's very important that you guys remember that, okay? Now later on we'll talk about play side pursuit and backside pursuit, cutback lanes and stuff like that, and then this is when their field vision actually comes into play. So field vision into action works like this. Offensively, in the FAT8, the quarterback the offensive player controls the remote on the board, okay? Very important that you learn how to control the trigger well, because field vision into action it used to be 4 stops. I recently modified it, reduced it down to 3 stops, because I found that 4 stops slows the game down too much, and it makes the game a little cluttered. So I reduced it to 3 stops. This allows players to respond to what they see in their field arc. I just wanted to make sure that you understand how line of sight actually works. Okay, so now we're going to get into field vision into action. It basically works this way. First is the snap, then first read, then end of the play. Okay, the snap, first read, end of the play. That is how field vision into action works, right? On a team-wide basis. Okay, that means that you get to stop the board offensively 3 times. Okay, Players who are not engaged may be adjusted and or angled. Okay, so I'm going to show you now. This is when we get into our glossary. The first two definitions in the glossary is adjustment and angle, and I'm going to show you how that works in field vision into action all at the same time. So the offense can, that means the offense can stop the board 3 times. However, on running plays, if the running back crosses the line of scrimmage, you may no longer stop the board. The board has to run until the play ends. Now, in the FAT8 conference, in the FAT8 rule system, tackling is front of base only. Front of base only. There are lots of ways to break tackles. There are also lots of ways to make tackles. Game tackling, dragging the runner down. I'm gonna go through all of this. So for now, let's look at how field vision into action works. So I'm gonna run the board. So first is the snap. So the quarterback calls the cadence and the quarterback receives the snap. The game always starts with the quarterback having the ball. Okay, it always starts with the quarterback having the ball. Okay, no adjustments or angles can be made until after the snap, not before the snap. The defense is not supposed to know what play is coming, so you leave no indications as to what's happening. For example, we don't angle our running backs like this or our receivers like this before the snap, because we do not want the defense to know where the offensive players are going to, right? So this is one thing that's very different in the FAT8 conference. We don't angle offensive players before the snap. That happens after the snap, okay? Of course, you cannot touch engaged players. So let's go ahead and let's get into our field vision into action sequence. So first we're going to start with the snap. This happens very quickly. That's it. That's your snap. Okay. Now at this stage, let me move the ball out the way. Normally the ball would not be here. Would not be there. Okay. So now at this stage, you can set up your blocking scheme. You can now make your pivots. As you can see right here, this receiver is not yet engaged. Okay, the cornerback came up for bump and run. The receiver is not yet engaged. There's some special rules for bump and run as well, which we'll get into. So in this case, I'm going to have my receiver run a quick slant. So I'm going to not adjust him. I'm going to angle him. You angle him by going to the rear of the base and slightly turning him to the inside. Okay, slightly turning him to the inside, right? Just like this. All right, that is how you do an angle. Now I'm going to do the same thing to set up my blocking scheme as well. So in this case, we're going to have our quarterback do a handoff. Okay, we're going to have our quarterback do a handoff. Now typically you never tell the defense what play you're running, but just for the sake of shooting this video, I need to be able to tell you guys what's happening. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my tackle bounce out and pick up this outside linebacker. So I'm going to turn my tackle here. So I'm angling my tackle. So I just angled him. Okay. Now I'm going to angle. I'm going to adjust my fullback. Now to adjust the fullback, you pick him up and you turn him. So by definition, adjusting allows you to do two things. Either switch that base around from front to back, or adjust the base using the dial on the TTC, for example. Or you can just pick him up and make an adjustment. In this case, I'm going to pick him up. This is an adjustment. And I'm going to just turn him and place him back down. Okay? That was my adjustment. Okay? Now, I'm going to angle my running back. Okay, so I'm going to angle my running back again. Doing an angle is very simple. You touch the corner and you pivot him. That is my angle. Okay, so that's the difference between doing an angle and doing an adjustment. Okay, so all players who are not engaged who are not physically touching a player on the opposite team, can be adjusted or angled. Okay, so in the FAT8 conference, the quarterback has to hand the ball off. The quarterback has to physically go to the back and hand it off, right? So one thing that we don't do here is I don't say run, he has the ball. No, the quarterback has to go give him the ball. You have to see him get the ball, okay? So in this case, I'm going to angle my quarterback to go make the handoff, okay? Now I'm going to set up my blocking scheme on play side. So this is back side, this is play side, okay? So I'm going to angle my scheme for this. So now I'm going to have my wide receiver, my slot guy here. I'm going to have him, I'm going to angle him to come and make a block. And I'm going to angle this receiver out here to also come and make a block. So they are doing what's called a crack block. They are blocking downhill, blocking into the backside pursuit so that that back can get sprung to the outside. Now, the defense is every defensive player who is not engaged is also allowed to make adjustments and or angles. In this case, I'm going to look at my defensive line here. This defensive tackle is engaged. This defensive end is not engaged. So I'm going to slightly pivot him. Okay. This defensive end right here, I don't know if he might throw a screen over here. Because remember, you don't know what the offense is doing. Because normally, if I were playing against someone else, I would not be telling them what I'm doing right here. So it will be up to them to try and figure it out. So you have to assume that this fullback might be coming out for a screen pass. So in that case, I'm going to make sure that this defensive end is able to come up and contain him just in case he throws a screen pass, because I don't know what he's going to do just yet. Okay, now I want to try and get in the backfield. I want to try and beat this crack block. And so just in case, if I think that he might get the ball, I want to send somebody down here. So I'm going to send him downhill, and I'm going to angle him to come in the backfield. Just in case the quarterback might be doing a bootleg, dropping back, it's a possibility that they might be running a slant. I don't know, right? So I have to play to what I see is coming. That is what field vision into action means. The defense has to play to what it is seeing. So in this case, it's a possibility that he might either be blocking or running a route. I have to make sure that I'm available to counter what might be happening here until the play actually develops. So in this case, I'm going to have this safety play these slants, or what I see might be a slant. In addition to this, I'm going to have these guys go on play side just in case it's a run or a screen or a slant. I might be able to clog it up right in here. On this side, it's a possibility that this wide receiver might try to get open as well. I don't know. For the time being, I'm going to make an adjustment. Now I'm going to show you guys. In this case, making an adjustment just like we did with the fullback, making an adjustment in this case, I'm going to slide him off his base, keeping his base in place where it is. I'm going to just switch it around, keeping it in place where it was, and then I'm going to slide him back on his base, keeping him in place where he is. So I'm going to have him backpedal because I don't know what's happening and I want to be able to see what might happen on this side of the field. Now we're ready for the first read. So that is after the snap, the first read, and as you can see, the quarterback goes and makes the handoff, right? So now as the play is developing, the quarterback makes the handoff. Now it is up to the running back to read his blocking. That is why we call it the first read. As you can see here, it looks like this outside linebacker went through that crack block, and so did the cornerback, which means that things are breaking down right here. So now what I got to do is, since I'm making a handoff at this stage, this is the stage when I will say whether or not it's going to be a handoff. This could also be play action. This could be a fake handoff, right? So I still have the option of running a pass, Okay, so I want y'all to, you see how complex this can be. I still have the option of running a pass here. I don't have to hand it off. I can run play action if I want to. But in this case, I'm not going to run play action. In this case, I'm going to say it's a handoff. So now I have to make an adjustment. So we're going to say that Forbes, number 41, Forbes, Deion Forbes, is getting the ball. The quarterback has handed him the ball off. So now I need to adjust my quarterback. So in this case, I only have one more stop because that's the first read, right? So the end of the play is the third stop. So in this case, I'm going to adjust my quarterback by picking him up and putting him back down. But I'm going to just adjust him so he can move out of the play. Remember, we have injuries in our system. If your quarterback take a big hit during a play like this and goes down, you know, that it could be bad. Now I'm going to angle my running back because I already see that out here in the flat on play side is broken down. So I'm going to angle him to run right up the middle. So I'm going to angle him to hit the 2-hole. So if you remember, this was our center right here who's going upfield, right? Next to him would have been 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So he's going to come right behind the center. So now everyone who is engaged can't be touched. He's engaged. He's engaged. These guys are engaged. These guys are engaged. Now that it is a run play, I want to point this out. Now that we've determined that it is a run play, it's okay for the wide receiver to be blocking. If it were a pass play, the cornerback would have to release this receiver and run with him. So we'll get into that in the next video because I'm already at 20 minutes. I want to go ahead and run this play so you guys can see. Now we have the 2 safeties and the middle linebacker out here who can make a play on the ball. Because we can't, defensively, we can't adjust anyone else. Well, I can adjust this outside linebacker. This goes into line of sight. So as you can see, his line of sight is front of base all the way to his rear arc right here. So this outside linebacker can actually see what's happening in the backfield. So he can adjust to what he's seeing. So I am going to pivot him here. Just in case this guy gets through this hole, he might be able to catch him and tackle him from behind. This is backside pursuit. Now, I'm going to pivot here. Here. This is where it's very important that you get your angles right because you want your guys to take the right angles so they can make these tackles. In this case, I want to create a kind of a wedge here. So I want him to come in here and close this gap. I want him to run a little flat to come here just in case he gets past him. Now I have to make my adjustment right here. So we're going to do the same thing since we know that it's not a pass. Keep the base in place. I'm going to pivot the base in the direction that I want it to go in. I'm going to slide our guy back on his base right here. Okay. Now we are ready for the end of the play. Okay. So now we have our ball carrier. Now remember, I have one more stop because we had 3 stops. The handoff was the second stop. So you have one more stop. That is for your back to read cutback lanes. You have one more stop before he crosses the line of scrimmage, and then you no longer can touch it anymore. So this is where you have to make a decision. You don't have to do all 3 stops. You don't have to. You have to learn to use it to your advantage, but you don't have to. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and run it. So he's going to hit the hole, and he's going to get tackled at the 30-yard line by the middle linebacker. An 11-yard gain. Great play by Boise State. Look at what happened to the quarterback. The quarterback took a nasty tumble here. So this is another thing. Now we're getting into injuries. This is another thing. The quarterback got hit by 2 guys. He took a nasty hit here. So this is where the dice comes into play. So now we're going to get into injuries a little bit. And then I'm going to stop because it's going a little longer than I wanted it to go. So we're going to get into injuries really quickly. And so it's really, really easy with the way that injuries work. And so basically what we do here is you roll a dice, right? We're going to roll a dice. So what we're gonna do, we have our injury dice here, which is the red dice. We're gonna roll a dice. On a 6, that player has been injured. Okay? So we roll our dice. I never do this on film. And the quarterback did not get injured. Okay? But let's say I had rolled a 6. You have a 1 in 6 chance, right? So let's say I had rolled a 6. Okay? Let's say I rolled a 6. Now I have to see how bad the injury was. Okay? So this is how that works. On a roll of a 1, it is bad news. Your player has sustained a season-ending injury and he is out for the rest of the season. If you roll a 2, he has to sit out for 1 game. And if you roll a 3, it's a mild injury and he just has to sit out for 1 quarter. Okay? If you roll a 4 through 6, then he just sits out for 1 possession. Okay? So that just means he got his bell rung and, you know, he's a little shaken up. After that possession, he can come back in. So that is the way injuries work. That is the way field vision into action works on run plays. Tackling is front of base, of course, as you can see. Forbes gets tackled at the 30-yard line. Thank you guys for watching. I know this video was really long, but I wanted to take it slow. I will come back with passing in another video. Comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks.